Welcome to the class of chemistry. Today we will be looking at laboratory safety rules. We explained earlier in one of our previous videos that when you're in the laboratory is not just a normal room. It's a room with a number of things. You're going to find chemicals, you're going to find flammable items or things. So for that matter, this is not just an ordinary room where you just enter and you do whatever you want to do. It's a special room where a lot of care is needed. And there are so many things that you need to be very careful with once you get into the laboratory. So for now, I will be taking you through some safety rules in the laboratory or for the laboratory when you're using the lab. Like here I will be taking you through 15, but with bonus, I can add up to 20 laboratory rules, and they can be more than that. Now, here are the 15 laboratory rules for using chemistry labs, or here are the 15 rules for using a chemistry lab. Number one, it says here, wear appropriate personal protective equipment, which we call the PPE, personal protective equipment. Why do you need to wear that? Because to prevent you from other dangerous chemicals. Just for example, always wear safety goggles, gloves, and a lab coat to protect yourself from chemicals and potential hazards. This protects you from danger associated with your eyes, especially if you don't put on the goggles. Chemicals may spill to your eyes or gloves. Your hands will get affected, or your coat. Some chemicals are corrosive, highly flammable as well. So who knows, you will come into contact with any and you will be protected. The second is, be familiar with the locations of fire extinguisher, first aid kit, eye wash station, and emergency shower. Why do you need that? They are very important. In case of any fire outbreak, you can use the fire extinguisher. In case you got an accident or maybe anything, injury, you probably need a first aid kit. Or maybe in case of any chemical that spills to your eyes, so you need to see where you can wash your hand, or even where you can take shower if at all if it is something that is dangerous. So you need to familiarize yourself with where this safety equipment will be found. The third is no food or drink in the laboratory. Do not eat or drink or chew gum while in the laboratory to prevent contamination. I think this is self-explanatory. You cannot be eating, especially as a doctor performing from our practical life as a doctor, working on a patient at the same time eating. It does not make sense. So in the lab, we don't eat. In the lab, we don't drink. In the lab, we don't chew gum for a reason of safety. The fourth point is work in well-ventilated areas. Always use a fume hood when working with volatile chemicals or substances that release harmful fumes. You need to make sure your area is well ventilated. Some chemical practices or experiments will have to require the use of burning, and as a result, you will get smoke, you get a number of things happening. So therefore, that area must be ventilated, well ventilated. And we also talk of the fifth point is handle chemicals carefully. Always read labels, follow instructions, and use chemicals only as directed. Never mix chemicals unless instructed. When you're going to be in the lab, you have to make sure you follow these things very critically. Always read the labels. Take a bottle or container of any chemical and read before you use. Then Even when you're told or when you know that this is the chemical, do not uh, use it for anything until you are instructed to. And make sure you only use it when you're directed. And never mix chemicals unless you are instructed. Never mix chemicals in the lab. Maybe you feel like this one and this will bring out this or produces this or the end result will be this. Do not tamper with that. The sixth point is dispose of chemicals properly. Dispose of chemicals properly. Now, dispose of chemical waste according to your lab's guidelines and never pour chemicals down the sink unless instructed. Once you have used some chemicals, uh, the best thing to do is to find out what do I do with this after experiment. So your instructor or your teacher will guide you on how or where to dispose uh, the chemicals or the wastes after your experiment. Number seven, never return chemicals to their original containers. Never return excess chemicals to their stock bottles to avoid contamination. Once you take a bottle of a chemical and you pour it into something that you want to use for experiment, when you find out that maybe you've poured excess, do not try to pour it back into its original container or where you poured it from. Why? Because you may end up contaminating the chemical. So therefore, when there is access, find out from your instructor what to do about the access. So that is the best thing to do. The eighth point is label containers. Clearly label all containers with their chemical names, concentration, and hazard information. Now, this is very important because once you begin to use certain chemicals, you have to make sure you know what this chemical is. You know the concentration of the chemical, and you need to know what are the dangers associated with using this chemical. This will help you to protect yourself. If you just do it without knowing, especially like the concentration and the danger associated to certain chemicals, you will end up hurting yourself. So the ninth point is walk slowly and carefully. Never rush through an experiment. Take your time to ensure accuracy and safety. Don't be on hurry when you're in the lab. You need to know once you're there, your health matters. Your health is also a concern. So you have to be very, very careful. Then you also need to walk slowly to make sure your walk at the end of the day is smart and you're safe. Number 10, be aware of potential hazard. Know the hazards of the chemicals you are working with, including toxicity, flammability, and reactivity. You need to know how dangerous the chemicals you're using can be. And this is specifically in the area of, is it something toxic, something poisonous? Is it something flammable, something that can easily catch fire? Or is it something that is very reactive to so many things, maybe reactive when it comes in contact with the skin or with your eye or anything? You need to be aware of this. Number 11, keep the workplace clean and organized. Maintain a tidy workspace to reduce accidents and avoid mix-ups with chemicals and equipment. Um, I think this is a self-explanatory thing. You just have to, where you are carrying out your experiments, you need to make sure that place is kept tidy, uh, is kept clean to avoid unnecessary accidents from occurring. Uh, the point number 12 is always follow instructors in directions. Always follow instructors' direction. Adhere strictly to the instructions provided by your teacher or lab supervisor. You need to make sure you carefully listen to what they tell you. Don't be on your own. Don't be the I know it. Even if you know something, for the sake of safety and for the sake of uniformity, you follow what the teacher says or what the lab supervisor tells you. So it's very important. Report accidents immediately. If any accident occurs, report it to the instructor immediately and follow emergency procedures. Do not wait and say, maybe in case of an injury, then you say, this is just a minor injury. Let me keep it. I tell you, it is risky. So you have to report any accident as early as possible to avoid adverse effect or possibility of danger. So point number 14 is no horseplay. No horseplay. Maintain a professional demeanor and avoid distractions, as inappropriate behavior can lead to accidents. So what it means here is once you are in the laboratory, be responsible and focus on what that particular profession requires of you, that particular work or subject wants you to do. What it means again is you need to be calm and avoid distractions, avoid things, lifestyle behaviors that will end up into problem. So that is what it is. So sometimes, some of you play a lot. Some of you go there with your friends and you end up causing distraction there and all this kind of stuff. So avoid it. Number 15 is dispose of broken glassware properly. If glassware breaks, dispose of the pieces in the designated container for broken glass, never in regular trash bins. So there are specific sites allocated for broken glasses in case you're walking and by accident a glass drops on the ground and breaks. So you collect the particles and you keep the particles where they are meant to be kept, not with other trash. You keep it somewhere. Then number 16 is check for proper ventilation. So ensure that all equipment including fume hoods and ventilation system is functioning properly before starting experiments. It is one thing to have a working place with ventilation. It's another thing to make sure that these ventilated places are working effectively. So as you come there, you know that this place is ventilated. Make sure that the ventilation works. So you have to make sure you check the ventilation before you start your work. Use number 17. Use the correct equipment for the task. Always use the appropriate tools, glassware, and instruments for each experiment to prevent damage and ensure accuracy. This is very important. Once you know what you're going for, you will be given the guideline. These are the things I am going to use for this experiment. So you have to be very sure that what you're going to use is already known. Otherwise, you will end up in a problem. Uh, Point 18 is keep hair loose. Keep hair and loose clothing tied together. Well, this goes more to the ladies. Secure long hair and avoid wearing loose clothing or jewelry that could catch on equipment or come into contact with chemicals or flames. So this is to do with jewelry, this is to do with long hair, this is to do with loose clothing. Some of you who say we are old school, you put on something oversized, then you enter into the lab, then all of a sudden you are affected. So be very careful of what you put on. Even these rubber bands, arm bands, the rings, some of these things can cause problem in the lab. So you have to be very, very careful when handling uh, these equipments in relation to your hair, clothing, uh, jewelry. So please, for your own safety, so avoid this. Number 19, never leave experiments unattended. Never leave experiments unattended. Always stay in the lab while experiments are in progress, particularly when using heat or volatile substances to monitor any changes or hazards. It's important. What it means here is this. When you're in the lab and you're carrying out experiments, especially when you're using fire, you need to be very careful uh, to monitor the progress or the changes happening as the fire continues to burn, as the substance or the experiment continues to heat up. So make sure you know the changes, you know where to stop it, you know where to make adjustments. If you go away and come back, you may come back when there is a problem already, or when something takes your attention. By the time you're bringing back your attention to your experiment, something negative might have already happened. So therefore, be very, very careful. The last point is check expiration, expiration dates or expiry dates on chemicals. Before using any chemicals, verify that they are within their expiration date, as all chemicals can be ineffective or dangerous. So that's it. Make sure you check the expiration date. Uh, Expired chemicals can do one of the two. They can either be ineffective, not working properly, or they will cause you problem. So therefore, these are the rules or safety rules that you have to adhere to or you have to abide by once in the laboratory. Work well, work smart. Peace to you. Remember to subscribe and to share the video. Remember to also like and ask some friends to join us, that you together will enjoy learning from our platform. God bless you. Let's meet again in the next class.